All right, hello boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, it's your buddy Mr. G. We're going to talk about the toolbar assignment today. We're going to go ahead and walk through that. That is this assignment right up here. Got the toolbar assignment. Let's go ahead and look at the instructions. Okay, in the instructions says you're going to follow along with the video and quickly learn the basic use of all the tools. That's what we're going to do right now. We got to get Photoshop open. We need to get an image. Okay, the image we're actually going to be working with is going to be, I'm going to go back here. And we want to get the image is going to be up here in your images aisle. Okay, now we're going to use a couple images here. First, we're going to get this image here of Bert and Ernie. We're going to need that a little bit later here. Okay, so we are going to two fingers bunny ears go on here, and we're going to right click on that. And I don't want to copy this one. I want to save image as. Okay, and I'm going to save it, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it in my downloads. Okay, so I'm going to put it in my downloads there. Get me out of the way here. Then you can go ahead and hit save, and that's going to download it over there. Okay, now we also need to get this other image. Let me just make myself smaller. I am just in the way here. We also need this picture of this red scooter. So if we go ahead and click on that guy right there, we can just two finger bunny ears, right click on that. We're going to copy that image. We're going to go over here to Photoshop here. Go ahead and close this here. We're not going to save that. From the home page, we're going to make a new file. We're going to make, this is going to be called your name. So my name is John Grosvenor. It's always going to be called your name and the name of the file. And this one's going to be called toolbars. Okay, we're going to make sure we turn to inches, and then we want this to be 10 inches wide, 8 inches tall, and 300 DPI, and then we're going to go ahead and create that. All right, we got our file here. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is hit Command V as in Victor Violin. We're going to paste that in here, and we're going to hit V on our keyboard to get our first tool, which is our move tool. Our move tool moves everything around, just like we talked about in our last lesson there with the astronaut and the elephants. The move tool allows you to move and to rotate and to resize and do all those things. And if you make a mistake, it's okay. You can hit Command Z and undo anything that you do. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I want to place, see those little pink lines, are going to let us put that directly in the center there. And I want to resize this. We talked about the bounding box in our last lesson. That tells you what you have selected and allows you to grab that. If you don't see them, you want to make sure that up here in your bar, get my move tool, that you have this show transform controls right there selected and auto select, and that allow you to click on any object that is on its own layer. So I am going to hold down my Option key so I can pull out from the center. I'm going to pull this right up to the edge, and I'm going to stop. Okay, and then remember, every time we change anything with a layer, the size, rotation, distorted or anything, that's called a transformation. We have to hit this check mark up here and confirm or deny that, or it won't let you move forward. Okay, so we obviously have talked about our first tool here, the move tool. Okay, and if we hold over top of any of our toolbars, we get a little video, we get the quick key. V is the quick key for your move tool. We'll use that quite a bit because what it does, it moves things around. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on down the line here. Before we do that, we're going to go ahead and make sure we save this. We're going to go to Save. Okay, we need to tell it where we want to save. We're going to click on our computer because we save everything in this class to the same place. We're going to click to my Google Drive, my drive, and cookie fingers. Okay, and then you're going to go ahead and save that to your cookie fingers. All right, now moving down, we have several files here, right here, so these tools right here. So the second, third, and fourth tools are our selection tools, and as I said, with the little diamonds there, we've got little tools inside of there. So if I hold that first one down, we actually have 4 other tools inside of there. Okay, now we can make selections with these, and we're going to do a whole section on selections later, but right now we just need to know that a selection is a way to isolate things, right? And I have these different tools that can do that. Okay, and in this case we are not going to use any of those right now, but one thing we can do is we can make a square. So go here and grab this first tool. It's a little square here, and this is your marquee tool, and it makes a rectangular selection. We're just gonna knock a hole in this door here. So I'm just gonna put a little square right there, and then I'm gonna hit my delete key, and that's just going to make a hole in there. So one thing that we can do with selections is delete things, right? So I've got that. Now you will also see, if we zoom in here, that I have this little black and white dotted line that kind of is marching around. They call it the marching ants or the marquee. And that tells you have an active selection. Before we move on, we've isolated the area. We need to deselect that area. So we're going to go up here and go to select and deselect, or command D to deselect. Okay. Now, while we're going ahead and moving around, we can talk a little bit. We do have our hand tools down here. I've got my hand tool, and I've got my my zoom tool. Okay, I don't really use those a whole lot because we have our touchpad. If you use 2 fingers, you can use your hand tool. Even if you have another tool, you can use 2 fingers and slide around. So I don't really grab the hand tool a whole lot. It is Command 8, or is the H key to get your hand tool. Okay, and then my zoom tool is just pinch and pull. So I don't really grab my zoom tool a whole lot either. Okay, so those are several tools that we can navigate with that I don't really use a whole lot, but we can use through the touch screen. Okay, now one thing that is in the hand tool, I'm going to go ahead and go down here, is the rotate tool. Okay, I do that every once in a while, but I don't usually go down and grab it. I use the quick key. So if I hold over top of that, and I can hold over top of this, the rotate tool right there, it rotates your view just like it shows there. It is R on the keyboard, and more often than not, I just leave V and I hold down the R, and then I can rotate my view. Okay, now if I want to put it back straight, I'll use a modifier key. In this case, it'll be Shift. It allows me to put it right at 5-degree increments. So if I want to put it perfectly at 90 degrees or perfectly at 90 degrees there, I can do that. Okay, everybody hit Command S, save your progress. Okay, now we've got the other selection tools, and we're just going to skip over those for right now because, like I said, we'll do a whole section on our selection tools. Okay, I want to go ahead and go to the next tool. Okay, now as you're going through these, make sure you label them and put your things. So the crop tool is C. So C right there, and you can see that it is a little box. There's several of these that are little small boxes, right? So go ahead and click the crop tool. And it's just like crop tool in your photo program on your phone. It's going to crop photos, right? So in this case, I want to crop this down to the white parts and go ahead and get rid of those. So I'm going to crop this photo down. It's going to resize it here. And you see it kind of snaps there. And then again, that's a transformation. We're going to go ahead and confirm that, hit that. And then I'm going to go ahead and move on to my next tool. That's the crop tool. It crops things, okay? Our next tool here is the frame tool, okay? Now the frame tool, what it does, it essentially, cuts a frame and makes a matte, okay? Now we'll do a whole idea on doing mask, M-A-S-K-S also, but this is kind of like a simplified mask, okay? Up here in our command line, remember our toolbar is right here and our command line is up here, and that tells us what is in our hand is in our toolbar, and the command line tells us what we can do with what's in our hand. So I'm going to click the circle here, and I'm just going to drag out, and you can kind of see a circle. Probably you'll see it on your screen a little bit easier, okay? Now, I also have this little bar. Some tools have this, what's called the contextual taskbar, right? That'll allow you to do some things related to the tool you have in your hand, okay? So in this case, I can place an image in there. So I made a circle, and in the frame tool, just like when I hold over top of it, it actually allows you to put something into that frame, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click, let's click import an image, okay? And I'm going to import an image. And the image I'm going to import on my computer from my downloads is that picture of Bert and Ernie that we had from earlier. So I'm going to go in here and find my picture of Ernie and Bert. It's probably easier to find in yours. So I've got Ernie and Bert there, and I'll place that in there. Now that places that in there, and you can kind of see that it cropped it into that frame. Now we can do a couple things. I can move the frame around and I can move the image around, right? So if I double click, you can see I can move the whole thing, and if I single click or click away and click in there, I can click on the different images. So that's kind of cool. That's a neat tool. I don't really use that a whole lot. Once you understand how to make selections and use mask, you won't use that as much, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and hit Command S and move on down. The next tool we have is our eyedropper tool. The eyedropper tool selects colors, okay? Right over here behind my head, we have the color wheel, okay? Now you probably default to the cube, which looks like this, okay? If you want yours to look like mine, and I suggest it, go ahead and change it to the color wheel. I like this because the wheel has several options, right? So all the way around is all the rainbow of the colors that we can choose, you know, so we can choose any color we want around there. And then inside, we have the 3 points of what color is made of, which is the hue, which is the color of what it is, and then the intensity is how saturated that color is, all the way to gray and all the way to full saturation, and then up and down we can move and go all the way to white and all the way to black, right? So, and then in the middle is kind of like middle color for all this, right? So I like the triangle, okay? But if I want a specific color, say if I want to get the color of this scooter here, well, that's what the eyedropper tool does. It selects that, right? And I can grab that, and now I have as my foreground color right here, that color red, and you'll see it mimicked right over here in the toolbar as my foreground color, okay? We also have a background color that we use in some instances. Then we can switch those by hitting that little clock right there and switch them back and forth. You can also use your X key, the letter X will swap those back and forth as well, okay? But the eyedropper tool selects colors, so that's what it does, okay? So that's pretty simple. Okay, now let's move on here. Next thing we have is our spot healing brush. This is a pretty easy one. This is really great for fixing little blemishes, right? So I used to call it the zit tool here, but I'm going to zoom in here by pinching in here. And like if I wanted to say get rid of some of these things on this door, I have to come over here to my layers panel, by the way, and let's make sure we get back to layer 1. I forgot to mention that because when we use our frame tool and we put Burnt Ernie in here, it does make another layer. We'll talk more about layers later, but right now you just want to make sure you're on layer 1 so that we have the one where our picture is at. And on here, we can click and drag and make a blemish recovery here and make an adjustment. You can see it's cleaning up my door from these scratches in the door, okay? Now, most brushes, when I see this round head, it has a brush head. That means I can resize it. So up here in my control bar, I have a little slider and I can make it bigger or smaller, okay? You also have a quick key to do that. On your keyboard, you have your bracket keys. If you find your return key, right above that, you will see your left and right bracket keys. And if I go one way, it makes it smaller, and I go one way, it makes it bigger, right? So I usually use those as my quick keys. I don't go up here quite as often, but either way, we'll get the job done. So on the blemish recovery tool, you want to make sure it's the right size for what you're doing, okay? Let's come over with our blemish recover here, and let's take this number out here. So I'm going to go and I'm going to drag over top of my number here and scroll it all the way out. And I'm going to do this in 2 parts because if I do this too big, I give it too much information, it's not going to work as well. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to stop right at the edge of the wall there, let it do that, and as I change to a different area, I'll grab that, and it does a really good job as when I come out and look at everything, it sees that I don't even know it's there. So I'm going to hit Command S and so that. Again, one other thing I didn't mention is Command 0. So when you zoom in, you pinch and pull, you get inside and you move around with your fingers. Sometimes you're trying to get back out. There is a quick key to reset your view, and that is Command 0. Command 0 will reset your view and fill up your whole workspace with your image. Okay? Everybody hit Command S, save your progress. Moving on to the next tool, we have our brush tool, okay? Brush tool is really popular here. You can go up here and let's go ahead and open our brush palettes. Go to Window and let's go and click Brushes, okay? That'll pull this palette over here and you can pull this down. You can open up all these wonderful brushes. You got all kinds of brushes inside of here that you can use. It's a really great illustration tool. Now, a lot of you are sitting with Wacom tablets in front of you. These ones that have a little tapered end on both sides mean they're going to react to pressure sensitivity. These ones up at the top do not. They will be just a constant. But let's go ahead and just grab a regular brush right here, okay? And I'm going to double click that, okay? And again, you can make it bigger or smaller. Don't mean to do that. I'm gonna grab my brush here. I mean to rename my brush here. I'm just gonna double click on there. And I'm gonna come here and I can start painting with my brush, you can see, okay? I'm gonna hit Command Z and undo that, okay? Let's select the color of this with the eyedropper tool. With the brush in my hand, I can grab the eyedropper tool up here, or I can hit B on my keyboard and get my brush tool again. And if I hold down the Option key, because of the paintbrush, I can sample colors on the fly. Okay, so that's handy to have. So I am going to, with my brush tool, make a mark, and I'm just going to make the letter B for brush right there. Okay, if you make a mistake and would like to try again, you can hit Command Z, or if you want to try a different brush, you can do that. But I'm going to make a letter B on the wall. That's what we're going to do in the red. Okay, that sounds great. Go ahead and click this little palette right here to hide those brushes and get those out of our way. Moving down, we've got the next tool on our list is our rubber stamp tool. So if you click your rubber stamp tool, or the clone stamp tool, go ahead, and there's two in there, just the regular clone stamp tool. And what it does, it's a really cool tool as well. It copies from one place to another. Okay, so that's what the tool does. So like our little video here where it's going to copy these cherries here from one place to another, it is going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to do that, I have to tell it where to paint from. So in order to do that, I'm going to hit my Option key. Now when I hit my Option key, you see it changes my cursor to a little bullseye. Okay, and if I click and release one time, I have now set the clone source. If you try to paint without doing it, it's going to give you a warning, and it says clone source has not been designated. You need to hold down your Option key and click and release one time in order to designate your clone source. Okay, now again, I'm going to click right over top of this mailbox here, and we're just going to put another mailbox down underneath here, and you can see it's going to start painting that mailbox in. Okay, and I've got mine set to some weird setting. Normal. There we go. And we're going to start painting us another mailbox right in there. Okay. Now, if I need to change and I want to make another clone source, I would just have to come over here and reset and set another clone source. Let's say if I want to make another one of these palm fronds here, well, I can do that and pop that right in there just like that. Just like that. Okay, so that's our clone tool. Okay, next brush is our history brush. Now, the way it's supposed to work is it's supposed to go and restore it to a previous state. I don't find this very helpful because I do Command Z a lot of the time, but you can try and do it, and a lot of times it just doesn't work as much as I want it to. So usually I get this, could not use the history brush because the current canvas size does not match that of the history of state. So I've changed the canvas size so it can't do it anymore. So again, that's a tool I don't use a whole lot. Let's go ahead and move on down. I've got the eraser tool next. It does exactly what you think it's going to do. It erases things so you can kind of erase things. It's a brush. I can make it bigger. I can make it smaller. And that's very cool. I'm going to hit Command Z, and just leave that. The eraser tool erases things. Okay. Our next tools are the gradient tool and the paint bucket tool. Okay. The gradient tool does what it thinks it says. So a gradient up here in my bar. So I grab my gradient tool, immediately grabs this. Now there's all kinds of gradients that I can pick. I can pick any of these. The very first and basic one is going to be that foreground and background color that we set, right? So if I want to custom set one, I can click that, and then I'll do that. Now, a gradient without a selection is going to fill our entire image, right? So I'm going back and forth, and any way I pull that, it's going to pull up. Okay, now I also have a context bar, and I can change to different things, and say if I want a purple one, I can change to a purple one. Very cool. Okay, but right now I just want to show you that I don't really need a gradient on here, and I don't need to destroy the whole image, so I'm just going to go Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, and get back. Okay, we're going to move on to our next tool, which is our paint bucket tool. Paint bucket tool is going to fill an area. Now, it's going to fill an area until it runs into a different color. So like here in this box here, I can fill this with a color. Now let's use the color right up here. I'm going to hold down my Option key, and just like with the paintbrush, I can pull up the eyedropper tool. I'm going to select this little tool right up here. I'm going to select that color up at the top in that shadow, and I'm just going to fill that area with that to kind of look like we knocked a hole in the door there. Okay, that's the paint bucket tool. Next tool here is our set of blur, sharpen, and smudge tools, right? So in here, I'm going to start with my blur tool. Okay, now I'm going to come in close here and I'm going to go, let's go right here on the edge of Ernie and Bert on here, okay? And I'm going, well, that's not going to work because they have their own mat. Let's go and do it right over here. Now the blur tool, I'm just sitting and I am grinding into one place. I am not clicking a whole bunch of times, and you can see the longer I do it, the more it blurs that, okay? And if I come over here and I get my sharpen tool, it's the same thing. I like to do the sharpen tool on this light right here. You kind of go, it's going to sharpen and make the things less and less fuzzy and more. And again, I'm just kind of grinding in one area, right? As opposed to clicking a whole bunch of times. Okay, so that's the sharpen. And then we have the smudgy tool, the smudge, right? And the smudge tool, mine is gigantic. I'm going to make mine a little bit smaller there. Okay, let's do it on the door over here. It kind of smudges things, right? It goes from whatever color. So whatever color you touch, it's going to drag it into another area. So you can see I can kind of smudge on this door here like that. Okay, next tool down, moving here, is our adjustment brush. Okay, so this is to create an adjustment layer. Now we're going to go, actually this is a brand new one here. I haven't actually seen this brush yet, so let's watch a quick video.
To access the adjustment brush tool, head to the brush tool in the toolbar and then click on adjustment brush tool. Select the adjustment that you'd like to start painting with first before you begin painting. This can be done from the contextual taskbar or the tool options bar at the top of the screen. Then we can simply start painting, or we can click apply to object to apply that adjustment to the object you select in one click. So let's start painting. Notice that as we started painting, an adjustment layer with a layer mask is added into the layers panel. This tool is fully non-destructive. Now that we started to apply this adjustment, the context bar will update so we can continue to refine this mask by removing or adding. We also have full control of a regular brush here to change the size or the hardness.
All right, so it is going to make an adjustment layer, which is a little bit advanced for us since we're just learning here. So we will come back to that tool later. That sounds pretty useful, but we'll go kind of move past it for right now. We're going to go ahead and go to our next tools here, and our next ones are going to be our dodge, burn, and sponge tool. Okay, they all work very similarly here. Okay, we're going to start with the dodge tool. Okay, so I'm going to come over to the saddle of my little scooter here. Okay, the dodge tool is going to do this. It is going to lighten an area. Okay, now I'm just going to keep clicking on here, and it's going to lighten an area. Now it is not painting white. What it is doing is taking the pixels there and it is making them lighter. Okay, now I'm going to come to the next one, which is the burn tool. The burn tool is going to do the exact same thing, and I'm going to do it over this buckle here. And it's going to darken an area, okay? And if I keep going, it kind of like burns a hole in it, if you will, okay? So, and then finally I have the sponge tool. And the sponge tool, what it's going to do is it's going to desaturate an area. So it's going to pull the color out and make it more gray, essentially. So that is what the sponge tool does, okay? So they kind of work in conjunction. So the dodge tool is going to lighten, the burn tool is going to darken, and the sponge tool is going to desaturate. So that's what those three tools do, okay? Next tool on our list is our pen tool. Pen tool makes paths. That's a whole nother lesson far down the road here, but we'll go ahead and make this. So what it does, it's going to kind of connect the dots here, and I'm just going to make a shape right there, and when I come close, it gives out a circle. I'll close that, and it will make a shape. So I made a square there, okay? Now paths, we have our own little button down here, and there is a paths layer right down here, and I can click on that, and when I make a path like I just did, it's going to make a new layer for this work path. And then I can do lots of different things with it. One simple thing I can do is it's set a color up here, nice like a green here so we can see it, and we can fill that path with a color. So if I click on fill path with foreground color, it's going to fill that right there. Okay, that's what our pen tool does. Okay, next we're going to grab our typography tool. Okay, the typography tool is going to make typography just as you would think. Okay, now our contextual toolbar will pop up here. Let's go ahead and click right up here. Okay, And as soon as I do, there comes my contextual toolbar, okay? And we're going to go ahead and say we want to tend it here, and I can pick my font. You can pick whatever font you'd like. I'm going to pick something big and chunky here. And here we got, we have what font it is, the size. You know, we can either use a drop-down menu and make it really big, okay? Or I can punch in a number. So let me say, just double click in here and I'll type 22 and hit return. And then I can grab my move tool and I can move that where I want, okay? And I can also have a little color here. I can change the color if I want. That is all super helpful and handy, okay? So I want you to go ahead and write door on there. And then move it to the center of your door with your move tool. And click anywhere and we'll move on, okay? Next tool we have is we're almost done here, is our adjustment, our direct adjustment tools. There are two of them, the path selection and the direct adjustment tool. Now what those things do, they adjust paths, right? Since we have a path down here, I've got a path right here, you can see that I can take the white one and I can move that around. So that's what those do. We'll use that later when we do our typography project, okay? Coming down, we've got one more tool to talk about, and it is our shape tool, okay? Shape tool makes all kinds of great shapes. Let's go ahead and make a triangle here, and I'm going to hold that down and pick triangle, and I will have a fill color, which is what the color will be inside. It's kind of whatever I left it up there, which is fine, and I'm going to make a triangle on there like that, okay? You can get your move tool and move that wherever you want, okay? Now, I'm going to hit Command 0, okay? Now, pull this outside here a little bit. I'm going to be grading this visually, so we are done at this point. So here's what I'm looking for. I'm going to look to see that you have Bert and Ernie inside of here, a red letter B, that I have a motor scooter that has the 3 little burn holes in it, a sharpened headlight. This number is gone over here. I've got these 2 shapes, 2 mailboxes, a hole in my door, and the door in typography on top there. That is how I will visually grade. So try to make yours look as close to what you see on my image there, okay? If you have any questions, send me a message. Talk to you soon. Stay creative.